I just finished my game and surprise, surprise, this was another 5-hour game. I don't know how I do it, but I'm always one of the last people in the playing hall, and it always ends up with like old dinner places being closed, and you know, it's a whole mess. But anyways, I'm here. I actually dropped a glass like right before recording this, so there's glass on the floor. So this is a little scuffed, but I'm really excited to show you the game. This is round 4 of Reykjavik Open, and I was playing today against an American. His name was Dylan Mice, and he actually worked for Chessable, so I was a little bit like, is he just gonna have endless opening knowledge? Is he just gonna know so much about, you know, theory, so many openings, etc.? Because he works, you know, with a with a company that does chess courses. I didn't know. But anyways, he was rated 1826. He'd done a pretty good tournament. He had drawn at 2000. So obviously, like, I was a little worried coming into the game. I thought I have to play some good chess to win today. So I had the white pieces and I played d4. And the game definitely was very different from what I thought it was going to be. I was expecting him to go for this check. I went bishop here. But now he made this move queen e7, which I have, truth to be told, never seen here. Yeah, and so I just played a3. He took my bishop, I took it back with the queen. The idea is that I want to bring my queen here to c2, if he would go something like knight here. And I take with the queen because I want to place my knight on c3 instead of on d2. So he went a5 instead. I went knight c3. I was very happy. He went d6. I went e4. And here I had already seen an idea, which was that if he goes e5, which he did during the game, which it kind of has to, because otherwise maybe, well, I don't know if I will go e5, but, you know, I'm planning to maybe do it. I could take and go knight d5. And now the idea is that I'm threatening the queen, you know, I'm kind of threatening the knight. If he would take here, I simply have queen e3 winning the game, as I'm both threatening his knight and the queen. So he basically either has to move the queen or take on d5. I was expecting him to take, but he went queen d8. And this is apparently a mistake because I can take this pawn, but I didn't. I was a bit worried about taking here because I wasn't really sure about what was going on with this pawn either. Like I wasn't really sure what was going on with that pawn kind of hanging in the middle. So I decided to go for the move queen g5 instead. I was also, to be honest, a little bit worried about this, which maybe just works after queen e3. I guess, yeah, f5, I can just go f3. Sometimes chess is simpler than we think, but somehow I just didn't like that my king was out in the open. So I went for this move instead, queen g5. My idea being that I'm both threatening this pawn and this pawn, so I'm going to win a pawn. And at this point, I had already seen a few moves in advance. Like I'll tell you where I stopped seeing. But yeah, so my opponent castled. And I went knight takes f6. It was part of my plan, even though chess.com is giving me the X. My idea was that I wanted to take this pawn with the queen because I thought that after takes, and rook here, a historical thing happened. I made a brilliant move. I made a move where I'm sacrificing a piece, but this time it's actually brilliant, not like yesterday. Historical moment, everybody. But yeah, so I went long castles, and this is a brilliant move because I'm basically sacrificing the knight, but obviously you cannot take the knight because it's checkmate. But I had seen all of this, and I thought that this was a great position. I thought I'm simply a pawn up, and okay, there's a bit of a situation going on here. But yeah, I thought that I'd be able to defend, because the thing is that even if my opponent goes something like knight a6, I can simply go f3, protect this, and now I'm going to be able to move my knight out, and I'm going to be a pawn up. So I was really happy here. So I was really excited about this move. Instead, my opponent went for the move king f8, the idea being that now they're protecting the rook, and also like obviously now it takes wouldn't be a checkmate because the king is able to go up. So here I went knight f3, with the idea being that after it takes, I can go for this knight g5 move, threatening the rook and the pawn. So I thought, okay, I'm winning a pawn. I'm gonna be a pawn up, and you're gonna see like this game is gonna be all about chasing pawns. Like this game was incredible. So yeah, the rook went back, knight takes h7, king g8, and I'm really proud of this move, bishop d3. And the idea is that if he goes f6 now, which makes sense because, oh, I'm going to trap Anna's knight, Well, I have bishop g6 winning the game because now the rook cannot really go anywhere, as if it moves somewhere, it's going to be checkmate, and the only move is to go here, but I take it. So, yeah. So instead he went knight c6, and I went back to g5. I didn't want to have my knight hanging out over there alone. My opponent went knight e5, and I went bishop c2. I spent like so much time figuring out if I should go for this check first or this, because I was looking like at crazy stuff. I was looking at like check, king here, bishop c2, knight here, rook here, and I was trying to figure out if this was the right way of going. So I spent a lot of time thinking here because of that. And ultimately, I thought that I just wanted to go bishop c2 because I thought that after takes, I thought that maybe I could go bishop b3. But I was thinking about bishop b3, but I wasn't sure after b5 because I thought, okay, if the knight goes here, then I can, then I can take and take. That was also a reason for why I wanted to keep the king on g8. But I wasn't sure what to do after b5. So here I would probably actually have gone something like rook e1. Yeah, I wanted to play against this bishop. As you can see, this bishop is really bad. He cannot really go to a lot of places. So I really wanted to play against this bishop because I thought if something like this, obviously something like this, I always have rook e7, and I thought I would always be better. But he went for this move f6. He was playing this really well. f6 was definitely the more critical move, I thought. And here I spent a lot of time thinking, 13 minutes, because I couldn't decide between knight e4 or knight f3. I was even considering knight h3. And this maybe looks a bit weird, but the idea was that I'm playing against this bishop. And I didn't love knight e4 because I really liked having the e file open. Also, if knight takes e4, I wanted to go bishop b3, and you have to think, I want to keep my pawn. So I was thinking about what to do after knight takes e4. So I was really thinking about knight f3, and I really liked this move because I realized that, okay, now if knight takes c4, my knight is much better placed here. I can go something like bishop g6. The rook has to go to f8 because otherwise it's checkmate. The rook has to go to f8, and I thought I can go rook e1 now, and I'm much better. So I thought, okay, if I go knight f3, he cannot take this pawn on c4. So I thought, okay, what happens if he takes my knight? I get double pawns. Well, yes, but I realized that I can go first bishop g6, very nice intermediate move just to lock the rook in here before the bishop comes out. Because once again, if the rook goes somewhere random, it's checkmate. So the rook has to go to f8, and then I can take this knight on f3. And I thought after something like this and rook e1, I would be better, as no rook can go to e8 and defend. And if something like this, I will just simply get my rook in. So I thought, okay, here I'm better. Knight f3 is genius. I was this close to playing knight f3 when I realized, wait, knight f3, he goes bishop g4. And then I thought, okay, bishop e4, c6, rook d4. I'm really happy because all of these moves are actually engine lines. Like, I'm really proud that I was able to see all of these lines, but I was really calculating so heavily here. Like, I was going crazy in my brain. And I didn't end up quite liking it. So I decided instead to go knight e4. I thought it was more flexible. And here I simply activated my rook. So I went bishop e6. My idea was to go knight c5. I thought here I had a great position, and now I found this really nice idea of taking this pawn on b7, but I decided to first take this rook because now rook b8 does not work due to rook d8 check. So here he went king f8, and I would say that up until here I've played a great game. Like, maybe in the opening I didn't do the most accurate things with my queen and stuff, but up until here I'm really proud of the game. But here I made a huge mistake. I was thinking for like 5 minutes out of my 10 left, and I was thinking about bishop a4, I was thinking about rook d8, and then I saw a ghost, I think. Because I thought, okay, after rook d8, he goes bishop e4, bishop d5, sorry, and then I was like, okay, that doesn't work. Obviously, I just take the bishop. So I was stupid. I saw a ghost. It happens sometimes in chess after a few hours, but just very simple thing that I missed, right? So I thought, okay, rook d8, I shouldn't do, but rook d8 wins on the spot, because if I go rook d8, he's gonna have to force the trade of rooks, and I was a bit worried about maybe something like this, but I just simply go bishop b3, and now, you know, no matter what, I'll be able to take, and then I'll be able to pick up some pawns, and I'm just winning here. So rook d8 was a pretty easy win. However, I went knight d8 instead, because my idea was that he would have to go bishop g8, I thought, and then I was gonna go knight c6, and I thought, now if something like rook e2, for instance, I can go bishop g6, and I thought now this king is almost trapped, or I can even go for this check. I wasn't sure, but like, I thought that with knight c6, I'm really kind of trapping the king. So I was really happy with this maneuver. However, I completely missed that my opponent can go bishop h5. Like, I saw it, but I was like, oh, f3, but I just missed that he has this move knight e3. And now I was like, Anna, you messed up. And I was really sad. I was like, no, Anna, how did this happen? How did this happen? And now I've lost all my advantage. Like, now I have to try to win the game again. And there's this saying in chess, which is that you haven't won until you've actually won. And it's true. I was already celebrating my win kind of in my brain, and I was like, wait, it's equal now. Like, what do I do? So I went rook d2. He went knight takes g2. And now he basically got his pawn back. So I decided to take and now go bishop e4. And I now had a couple minutes left on the clock for 10 more moves, and he had 4 minutes. So we were both pretty low on time. But I still was optimistic. I thought that still my chances practically were really good here because his pawns were so weak. So he went bishop e8, I went b3. I was about to go rook c2. And then I realized that he has bishop a4, and if I take, I get checkmated. I was so close to playing that. But I went b3 to stop that. He then went c5, I went rook c2. He defended. I was thinking, like, should I go b4? But yeah, I got down to 3 seconds, and I just went king b2. He started activating his king. And here he allowed me to trade bishops, which I thought was beneficial for me because I thought my king is just so active. So he went rook e6, you know. Now it was the final 3 moves before we got extra time. Here I should probably just, you know, take the pawn, but I just didn't like rook e3. I wasn't really sure what was going on. Like, it was too little time to completely figure this out, and I thought this looks good, but how is it? I don't know. The engine says it's a draw. I don't know what would happen during the game, but so I decided to go instead rook c3 to, I thought, to make it more annoying for my opponent, just because now this plan doesn't work. He went rook e5. Now I could go king b5, but I went here instead. And now I decided to just finally take my pawns. And yeah, crazily enough, like, I really thought here I was winning. Like, he offered me a draw here, and I was like, no, because I thought I was winning. But it's actually objectively, according to the computer, a draw. But here's the thing. I showed this position to an international master, and it looks hard. It looks tough to defend for black. I think in most, honestly, I think that it's a lot harder to defend this for black than what it is for white, because in most of the lines, black is going to have to sacrifice this rook for this pawn and then march down with these 2 pawns to such a point that I have to sacrifice my rook as well. So, like, it's not an easy draw in no shape or form. This is a pawn that has teeth that is about to go down, and black has to find a way of stopping it, and this pawn is fast. It's only a few steps away from promoting, so it's really a difficult position, I think, to hold for black. And I have to say, I think my opponent has played a brilliant game so far for his rating. He's played so well. So yeah, so takes. He went rook h1 because he wanted to put the rook behind the pawn. I was more afraid of him doing something like going g5, starting the march, and then after something like b5, I was like more worried about the rook just like being around here, I don't know. Or just like not even doing anything, just waiting for me to promote, but push these pawns enough, you know? Even king f5, I thought if the king gets to f4, I thought that this was just going to be a draw, because now, just to illustrate this, this is a simple draw. I cannot stop this pawn. I have to sacrifice the rook, basically. So, like, I thought I was more afraid of something like this, but he started moving his rook around. I decided to go rook c3 because I really wanted him to not be able to check me over here, and I had a very clear plan, which was just to start pushing my pawn. Here I was worried that he was going to go king e5, because I thought then if b5, well, then he goes king f4, and I thought if the king gets to f4, I thought actually it's a draw, because I couldn't see how I could ever stop this exchange of pawns, and I thought with this exchange of pawns, it's a draw. And I realized that. So I thought, okay, if he goes king e5, I have to go rook c4, I thought. But yeah, I really wasn't sure about how this position was, to be honest. I thought I was winning. But yeah. So anyways, I went rook b1 here, because it makes sense. He wanted to be behind the pawn, but I played now b5. And what he missed is that after he goes king e5 to place this king on f4, I now found the idea that I had before, and this is actually the only winning move in this position, which is rook c4. I have to prevent the king from going to f4, or it's a draw. So I found this move, and now it's winning for me. And it's crazy how a Rook endgame can turn this fast, right? But yeah, I thought it was winning for many moves. Apparently it wasn't, but I still think it's hard to defend for black practically, especially at my level. So he went Rook b3, but the point is now that my pawn is fast enough. I push b6, and after he takes my pawn, I can go b7, and now I am able to do the bridge, and my pawn is going to promote. So here I ended up winning the game. And yeah, my opponent played a fantastic game. I'm really like, yeah, he played great. I was thought that I was winning easily before, but then, you know, he found some great moves, and then he was able to just come back, and I was lucky I got the win there at the end. But I'm still really happy that I found this idea of Rook c4. I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud actually of how much I saw in this game. I definitely felt like I was playing at a pretty good level, even though I made a few mistakes, but I was happy. So this is my round 4, very fun. I won this game. I'm on 2 out of 4 points. Tomorrow I'm probably playing someone higher rated. I'm hoping tomorrow is the day where I break the cycle and I'm able to win against the higher rated opponent, or at least draw. That would be fantastic. So hopefully that happens. Wish me luck for tomorrow, and thank you so much for supporting me and watching all my recaps. Bye bye, have a fantastic day.